We live in the world, the whole world. Separating us, isolating us, that's always been their weapon. Isolation kills generations. If there is a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Definitions belong to the definers, not the defined. My world did not shrink because I was a black female writer. It just got bigger. If you can't imagine it, you can't have it. You are your best thing. Nothing could be counted on in a world where even when you were a solution, you were a problem. She is a friend of my mind. She gather me, man. The pieces I am, she gather them and give them back to me in all the right order. Evil is just sort of ultimately boring. The good thing is just complicated. It's more provocative to me and more stimulating to me. We never shape the world shapes us. What's fair ain't necessarily right. You got a life. Live it. What you do to children matters. And they might never forget. You just can't mishandle creatures and expect success. Tell us what it is to be a woman, so that we may know what it is to be a man. Oppressive language does more than represent violence. It is violence. Does more than represent the limits of knowledge. It limits knowledge. I'm a believer in the power of knowledge and the ferocity of beauty. So from my point of view, your life is already artful, just waiting for you to make it art. All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was. If you surrendered to the air, you could ride it. I don't think many people appreciate silence or realize that it is as close to music as you can get. Beauty was not simply something to behold, it was something one could do. Correct what you can. Learn from what you can't. At some point in life, the world's beauty becomes enough. You don't need to photograph, paint, or even remember it. It is enough. When you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. Language alone protects us from the scariness of things with no names. Language alone is meditation. The presence of evil was something to be first recognized, then dealt with, survived, outwitted, triumphed over. She was the third beer. Not the first one, which the throat receives with almost tearful gratitude, nor the second, that confirms and extends the pleasure of the first. But the third, the one you drink because it's there, because it can't hurt, and because, what difference does it make? You can do some rather extraordinary things, if that is what you really believe. Some things you forget. Other things you never do. I wanted to separate color from race. I get angry about things, then go on and work. The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining, over and over again, your reason for being. I'm not entangled in shaping my work according to other people's views of how I should have done it. What's the world for you if you can't make it up the way you want it? A good man is a good thing, but there is nothing in the world better than a good woman. She can be your mother, your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, or somebody you work next to. Don't matter. You find one, stay there. Hate does that. Burns off everything but itself. So whatever your grievance is, your face looks just like your enemy's. I am in the position of judging people by the best they've ever done rather than the worst. When I went into the publishing industry, many women talked about the difficulty they had in persuading their families to let them go to college. They educated the boys, and the girls had to struggle. As you enter positions of trust and power, dream a little before you think. I think there's data, and then there's information that comes from data. And then there's knowledge that comes from information. And then, after knowledge, there is wisdom. I am interested in how to get from data to wisdom. It's good you know, when you got a woman who is a friend of your mind. Everything depends on knowing how much, and good is knowing when to stop. Definitions belong to the definers, not the defined. I been in territory, ain't got no name, never staying nowhere long. But when I got here and sat out there on the porch, waiting for you, well, I knew it wasn't the place I was heading toward, it was you. We can make a life, girl. A life. Those white things have taken all I had or dreamed, she said, and broke my heartstrings too. There is no bad luck in the world but white folks. Freeing yourself was one thing, claiming ownership of that freed self was another. Beloved, she my daughter. She mine. See. She come back to me of her own free will, and I don't have to explain a thing. All I can remember of her is how she loved the burned bottom of bread. Can you beat that? 8 children, and that's all I remember. Outside, snow solidified itself into graceful forms. The peace of winter stars seemed permanent. And less carefree, mother love was a killer. It never looked as terrible as it was, and it made her wonder if hell was a pretty place too. Fire and brimstone all right, but hidden in lacy groves. It was the right thing to do, but she had no right to do it. Would it be all right? Would it be all right to go ahead and feel? Go ahead and count on something. It's not about choosing somebody over her. It's about making space for somebody along with her. Making them think the next sunrise would be worth it. That another stroke of time would do it at last.